What up? We have Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads. We have Week 10 waiver wire pickups. This is an important week. We have some players coming off a bye. We have some players that had some huge breakouts. Are we believing in? The first, of course, pickup. And usually I don't start with a quarterback being a primary pickup, but he's the QB7 on the year. It is Justin Fields. It seems to be the Jalen Hurts light, where you're not going to get a ton of passing, especially Jalen Hurts of previous years. You're not going to get a ton of passing, but his rushing ability, he broke the single game record last week. Right now, he's increased the last 6 weeks. His points have just slowly, and so if he increases next week, you're talking about a 45-point week, which it's not going to happen. Well, he plays Detroit. It could be another great matchup for him. So he is definitely a pickup that I am. If you're a quarterback team that has had Aaron Rodgers, that has had Tom Brady, or you went Ryan Tannehill route, or you went a different route, even if you went the Trevor Lawrence route or somebody else, if you went through Matthew Stafford, I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks that have been disappointing, or if you have Lamar on a bye, then Justin Fields is the number one pickup. I want him over some of these running backs that we're going to be talking about, because there's not, even in this field, there's not a lot of running backs that are going to be having these. There's no Kenneth Walkers. There's going to be no running back that you're going to have that's going to have this 70-80% snap share that's going to turn into a top 12 running back. You're going to have a lot of running backs that are going to be basically fill-ins, or RB2 sometimes. Maybe then they're going to be RB4s and RB3s. We're talking about the Jeff Wilson types, which is actually going to be the next one that we're going to be talking about. It is Jeff Wilson. He actually outsnapped Raheem Mostert, and so you're looking at a guy who's 48% roster, which is kind of surprising. I mean, for a guy who was starting at San Francisco, I don't know if people just dropped him or they were scared that he went to Miami. That kind of really makes no sense to me, why he's only 48% rostered. Maybe you can let me know why you think that is. But he goes to a system that he knows, and all of a sudden he becomes the guy who gets the large snap share there. So I actually love, I think Jeff Wilson is a really good pickup here. I mean, 48% owned again. I mean, I'm just kind of shocked with that. And so he's the number one running back pickup. Wide receivers to look at if they are not rostered. Joshua Palmer, again, should be rostered. We have no idea on Keenan Allen's what if he's going to even come back. And if he does come back, you still have Mike Williams on the shelf. And so Joshua Palmer actually had a really solid game, over 100 yards receiving. So I like Joshua Palmer. It's against San Francisco, so it's not the greatest matchup. And Herbert just looks like he's just struggling this year. When you lose all your weapons besides Austin Eckler, I mean, you're going to have potentially a struggle. The number one tight end pickup, and this is a pickup from why he was probably dropped in a lot of leagues, was Greg Dulcich, because Denver was on a bye. But Greg Dulcich was dropped. He's only 33% owned right now, which I think when you have a guy who has had 3 straight 10-point performances or more, you gotta go with Greg D. I love the hair. I love the mustache. Greg Dulcich is the guy that I want. And I mean, realistically, Denver always seems to, not Denver. Russell Wilson always seems to kind of sprinkle into the tight end. Cortland Sutton seems to be kind of faded a little bit in this offense. They're not hyper-targeting him. Jerry Jeudy's been involved a little bit more. And so Greg Dulcich is I think, a solid pickup here. There's not many other tight ends to pick up. I mean, the other tight ends we're talking about are really the Cade Ottens, maybe Gerald Everett, and maybe Tyler Conklin are available. There's a league, I have a lot of different leagues, but there's a league that Pat Freiermuth actually got dropped because of a roster apocalypse. So again, Pat Freiermuth is somebody I want over Greg D, but Greg D is somebody that I actually probably would rather have over Tyler Conklin. Probably rather have him. Gerald Everett's pretty close, just because Gerald Everett's going to be in that hyper-targeted. But Evan Ingram, he's injured, so it's Greg D or Evan Ingram. I'm probably just going to go with Greg D and just see if I can ride the hot hand. I know the realistic statistics in the previous performances for rookie tight ends, but hey, maybe I can have a Pat Freiermuth year of last year basically transformed into Greg Dulcich here. The next one is going to be Rachaad White. He is only 27% owned, but a guy who is just kind of, with Tom Brady being in that offense, Rachaad White is the James White role. Rachaad White was an excellent excellent pass receiving back in college. He's a bigger back than, of course, James White, but I think that you're going to have a lot of Rachaad White into the offense here, and I think you're going to see more and more. Leonard Fournette has looked okay. He hasn't looked bad, but I think Rachaad White is a potential fill-in, especially when if PPR, you're getting a little bit of a bump here. Oh, and I talked about another wide receiver, Mecole Hardman. He's another one that just seems to be getting touchdowns. They seem to the Kansas City offense is one of the most frustrating offenses to deal with. So be careful with Kansas City because Mecole Hardman is now taking backfield reps or kind of these swing route reps. So if you're already an Isaiah Pacheco fan or a Jerick McKinnon or a CEH fan, you're getting the pie split into three. It's almost like you're getting 80% of the pie because Mecole Hardman now is in the red zone getting these rushing touchdowns or these little pop passes, you can call them. The next couple players that we want to talk about. Wan'Dale Robinson seems to be getting more involved into the offense. Also Darius Slayton. So both of these wide receivers are wide receivers that if you need a desperate play, they got to throw it to somebody. And it's not just going to be Saquon Barkley. It's going to, and they lost their tight end to injury, so it's really going to be these two wide receivers. I like Darius Slayton a little bit better than Wan'Dale, but Wan'Dale is going to be that short passing, that he's going to be kind of the Rondale Moore type. And so think of Rondale Moore into the Giants offense, but they have no primary. They have no DeAndre Hopkins. They have no Marquise Brown. Like the Giants don't have another passing weapon, which is why Darius Slayton is an intriguing ad as well, especially in some desperate moves. There are some players that may not look sexy as a name, but can actually produce for you on a week-to-week basis. This is an announcement of a player that you have to potentially pick up this week versus next week or the following weeks. It is Odell Beckham Jr. He is potentially going to be cleared here soon. Pick him up. He is somebody that you might have to go search his name because he's not going to have projected points. He's not going to have a team. But if he goes to the Ravens, if he goes to a team if he goes to the Rams, which I know doesn't seem as appealing, but if he goes somewhere that can actually fill into he could be a really good wide receiver 3. And in fantasy football, if you can get that off the waiver wire, and you might not even have to burn priority or anything like that, and Odell Beckham has the talent to potentially put up some big weeks. It just depends where he goes. I think the Ravens would be a perfect place for him. The Bears go after him. I just don't see him being a Bear. There's some other teams too. At first I thought the Packers, but I don't know what the Packers plan. He just seems like somebody that the Packers would try to avoid, personally. So, any other quarterbacks that we're kind of looking at is Daniel Jones. We're looking at potentially Jimmy Garoppolo, Marcus Mariota, but again, Justin Fields is that primary there. And some of these quarterbacks, it's fine. Also, note that Deshaun Watson also needs to be picked up in fantasy football if you want to. I honestly, I just can't root for him. That's just my personal preference. So I will not be picking him up. I understand that fantasy football is a game, but I'm okay losing or being down on that game, so I just don't have to have him on my roster. I just can't cheer for him. So I refuse to pick him up. Or if I pick him up, I'm going to... If for some reason I'm desperate and I have to pick him up, I'll just immediately trade him. But I'll trade him for a penny. But again, and there's a reason why you'd be able to pick him up is because no one else wants him. So I honestly... Gosh, man, if you could just make a league rule, no one pick up Deshaun Watson, that'd be awesome. But that's just kind of a dumb rule. Anyways, any other tight ends? Cole Kmet actually has looked a little bit better into the Chicago offense for tight ends. But again, you're looking at Justin Fields, who's not going to be passing a ton. Alexander Madison, Kylan Hill for the Packers. Again, these are players that might see some more work. Dalvin Cook Dalvin Cook always gets hurt, and so he's been healthy for now, but this is the time of the year where it seems like he starts falling apart. And Kylan Hill, if Aaron Jones, he's expected to play, but again, somebody to potentially say, hey, you know what? If I have Aaron Jones, Kylan Hill might be worth a potential ad. Again, it's really getting sketchy out there. And then any Kansas City running back that you would like to try to be desperate with, I am trying to stay away from him as much as possible. So the last ad we're going to talk about is Terrace Marshall. He was a round 2 prospect out of LSU. Was not used at all until basically the last couple games, but he actually scored a touchdown last week and has shown some good target share here for the Carolina offense. And really, they have DJ Moore. They have no one else. Robbie Anderson, of course, got traded away. So Terrace Marshall is kind of a nice little sneaky add that Carolina's going to probably be down in a lot of games. They're probably going to have to throw in a lot of games, and they have a bunch of quarterbacks that need to show off their worth here, whether it is P.J. Walker, that was absolutely horrible, or Baker, that has been absolutely awful, but hopefully better. He did a little bit better, and then you have Sam Darnold coming back. So again, just messes there on that offense. But again, these are some of the pickups that I suggest. And again, you're looking at Terrace Marshall 7% owned, and you're looking at Darius Slayton 4% owned. So there are some players out there that, I was even looking at, there's a bunch of other players that we talked about. They're in the 20-30%. They should be available in most leagues, unless you're in some really, really deep leagues. Again, 16, 18 team leagues. Then maybe some of these players are not. And if you do, or if you are in those leagues, just let me know. And ask me if a couple of these players are worth picking up, and I'll let you know. All right, this is Marcus Nice with Dads. Peace out. We will see you Thursday.